The Chicago Bears have a huge decision to make, among others, but most notably in our secondary. We have a cap situation to be envied. We have around 50 million before veteran cuts, but even with all that cap space, frankly, it doesn't mean that everyone's safe. And look, I love Eddie Jackson. He's just a good dude, a great locker room presence, but this has likely been his last year with us. He's a big brother of our secondary, right? But polls he can clear around 14 million in cap space by releasing him. It would be with a post June 1st cut designation, of course. He signed a 4-year, 58 million deal in January of 2020. Man, these guys make so much money, it's crazy. And he'll carry a cap hit of 18.14 million if we don't cut him or trade him this offseason. He's in the last year of his deal, and this would definitely help us as we sign free agents in the offseason, right? That money, once you start spreading it around, it runs out really quickly. Plus, we absolutely have to sign Jalen Johnson, and it's not going to be cheap. In turn, Jackson, he's likely a luxury. We just can't afford him. Cutting him just kind of hurts. I mean, he's well loved. He's one of my favorite players on the team. There's a chance that we keep him. I mean, we're in a comfortable position financially, but here's the thing. This is exactly what has bit us in the backside in the past. We've been sentimental, right? Keeping players past their prime because they're well loved. If we are to be a serious organization, that's a serious organization moving forward, sentimentality, it has to go out the window. We can't put ourselves in cap purgatory in the future by signing veterans like Jackson that aren't going to be productive for the life of their contracts. That's what we've done in the past, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop right now. One intriguing move is the possibility of moving Terrell Smith to safety. This is something that was talked about as a possibility when he was drafted, and he's looked at as having that type of versatility, that type of playing style. NBC Sports Chicago, they ran a story back at the time of the draft, and Bear scouts, they believed at that time that he has the smarts and the instincts to succeed in off-ball coverage, which is what we like to deploy in our secondary typically. Smith primarily played outside corner at Minnesota, but the competition was looked at as really tough coming into rookie camp. They didn't know if he would get playing time. And at the time, the Bears co-director of player personnel, he wasn't willing to shut the door on seeing Smith play safety eventually. I quote, "That's the cool thing about some of these guys is that the coaches have a vision and they see something coming down the line, somebody with his skills, with his physical skill set. I think that there's a ton you could do with him." Many teams pre-draft, they were looking at him as a possible safety due to his style of play. Our secondary, though, it's looking great. And I'm not saying this should be done, but it's a very interesting thought to have him transition to safety. And the coaches, they have not been opposed to it since he joined the team. I just wanted to point out this possibility, and I'm not the only one to say it. But let's do this justice. I want to talk about who Jackson has been during his time with us. I think it's important to recognize that. At one point, he was one of the best safeties in football. He was drafted in the 4th round out of Alabama in 2017. There were knee concerns when we drafted him, so it felt like kind of a reach, but he played all 16 games as a rookie. It was obvious we had a good one too. 73 tackles, 2 picks, a forced fumble. He recovered 3 of them as well, and he also had 2 touchdowns. It's pretty good, right? He followed that up with a season in 2018 that provided 51 tackles, a sack, 6 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery. It's a lot of stats. He had a good year. 15 passes defended and 2 defensive scores. That gave him a well-deserved trip to the Pro Bowl as well as a first-team Pro Bowl selection. He then followed that with a second straight Pro Bowl appearance, and now look at this production. 82 tackles. 3 forced fumbles plus a recovery. So he's just been great. He's been great, but wear and tear and injuries, they're taking a toll. This year, he played just 12 games, 37 tackles, 1 pick, and he defended 5 passes. This is the second straight year he's been held to only 12 games, and worse yet, he hasn't played a full season with us since 2020. So he just isn't what he used to be. And that's why, without drastically reworking a contract to keep him here, this might be the end. And 670 670 the score. They did a great profile on him, and I want to give credit to this. They outlined how he's just been a great leader over the last 7 years. He's been with us for not one, but two rebuilds. He's been a considerable part of developing safety Jaquan Brisker and also Tyreek Stevenson. And I mean, I'm not sure anyone on the team has enjoyed the defensive resurgence this year more than him. He wants to be a part of it moving forward. And he's also continued to be a great locker room guy, even though he thinks this might be his last year with us. Here's what he had to say. Lord willing, I hope I'm here next year, but God always has a plan. So I feel like I'll always land on my feet. I hope it's here, but I know how it works in this business. I wish I could be here my whole entire career, but we know how this thing works. So you know how to live in the moment. Those are really good words. In his 2 years on the job, Bears general manager Ryan Poles, he's overhauled much of the team's defense, right? You guys have seen it, particularly in the secondary. Poles, he's added Brisker, he's added Stevenson, and also nickel cornerback Kyler Gordon, of course, through the draft. And it's been to play alongside Pro Bowl cornerback Jalen Johnson. Once again, we've got to get that guy signed. It's an absolute necessity. But when asked, Poles, he was non-committal about the possibility of Jackson returning to our team in 2024. So let's see what he had to say. I know it didn't go the way Eddie wanted it to, being dinged up a little bit this year. And that's a really important thing to recognize because he hasn't been himself physically. Poles also said, I know it didn't go the way Eddie wanted to, being dinged up a little bit here once again. I thought where his impact is with Brisker. The communication on the back end. When Eddie wasn't in, you could tell that Brisker felt really, really comfortable this year. That's when Eddie was in, excuse me. That whole group, he really impacts the communication. You can really see that. I mean, when Eddie was in, you guys, when he was in, Brisker, he felt really, really comfortable. And that might have led to his development of breaking out this year. That's a really important thing to consider. So here's a conundrum every team has as they improve, right? Can Jackson still play at a high level? More than that, how important is he to this young team? I mean, he has an appreciation for his place in the franchise. Let's hear what else he has to say. I wouldn't normally do this to cover so many quotes, but I'm feeling a little sentimental. So I've just always loved this guy. So let's hear what else he had to say during that profile. Jackson said, it means everything. Just coming here from Alabama and the tradition of it, the history, it's rich, man. Everything is just so family oriented. So when you walk through that lobby, you see all those Hall of Famers on the wall. Man, that's the goal, to see the transition the Bears have built. One of the first organizations, it just means a lot. It means everything. I love it. I enjoy it. And I don't take it for granted. Now, I would love to see if we can rework his contract to a more manageable level. But I think the time for sentimentality, it must go by the wayside as we look to join the elite teams. That's our goal anyways. So if this is the last year having Eddie Jackson on our team, it's been fantastic. I love this guy as a player. You are well loved, and blessings to you. You guys, thanks for joining me. Let me know what you think about Eddie Jackson. Let me know if you think that a rework contract is something that we might do still. And even if you have some thoughts on his influence on our secondary and if his influence is still necessary moving forward. Appreciate you guys watching. I'm a little under the weather, so I appreciate you bearing with me. And hey, man, bear down. Talk to you soon.